Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're zeroing in on the frosty battlegrounds of Snowbreak Containment Zone.
That's right. And specifically, the electrifying buzz around its newest operative, Nerida Styx Envoy.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk.
We've got a really interesting mix of perspectives for you on this one. The community, from the looks of it, is absolutely on fire.
Right.
Videos popping up everywhere calling her the uncontested T-domain DPS, talking about game-changing mechanisms. It's intense.
You're not kidding. You can't browse Snowbreak stuff without seeing it. We're seeing these video titles like, get this, 2.7 Snowbreak Containment Zone, uncontested, only T0 main DPS, Nerida era defining mechanism.
Wow, quite the mouthful.
Strength-oriented tier list, must-see for newbies. I mean, that's a strong endorsement.
Absolutely. And these aren't niche videos either.
You know, we're talking tens of thousands of views, like 60K, 70K views, lots of comments. The energy is just huge.
Absolutely. And it goes beyond just those first reactions. You see titles like Snowbreak Containment Zone, why you absolutely must have Nerida.
Okay, correct.
And these really in-depth guides promising the strongest development guide and pulling advice. It really feels like players think she's essential.
And she's probably showing up in all the general 2.7 tier lists too, I'd imagine.
Oh, for sure. She'd have to be with this level of hype.
So the initial vibe is clear. Community thinks Nerida is a total game changer.
Okay,
But let's unpack that a bit.
Yeah, because that initial excitement doesn't always tell the whole story, does it?
Exactly. Which brings us to our next source, something a bit more analytical.
Right. This is a detailed analysis called Nerida Styx Envoy, Ghost of a Good Time. And it offers a pretty different viewpoint. It takes a much deeper dive into her actual mechanics, where she fits, And interestingly, it tackles this idea of a sub-DPS role right away.
Ah, right. The analysis mentions the devs have tried this before, yeah, with Enya Exuvia and Marion Riptide.
Exactly. And, let's be honest, their success was kind of mixed.
Yeah, a bit hit or miss.
So Nerida seems like the latest attempt. The analysis calls it a much more heavy-handed push for this character-swapping playstyle.
Heavy-handed, huh? Okay, so how does she actually work? What are her skills?
Okay, so her standard skill, Ghost Form. She dashes, deploys phantoms. These seem mainly for clearing out, weaker enemies.
Yeah.
Trash mobs.
Okay.
And they build up this resource called Whale Charge.
Whale Charge. Got it.
Then, if you hold the skill, she unleashes Wailing Ribbons. Its burst damage scales with the Whale Charge you've built. And crucially, it refunds her S energy.
Oh, that's important for using other skills.
Yeah, it keeps the flow going.
So it's kind of a loop. Ghost Form, Phantoms, Build Charge, Unleash Ribbons. Seems fairly clear.
Pretty much. Her support skill is described as an ambush. She pops in, deals damage, and then stays on the field for a bit.
Simple enough.
Seems simple, yeah, but the analysis hints it's important for her rotations. Then there's her Dewo's passive. This is where the team stuff gets really interesting. If she has a Chaos-type weapon equipped, her skill damage also applies Wraith Haunt. It's a damage overtime effect.
Ah, a DOT.
And if you stack enough of it on an enemy and their health gets low, it can trigger a sort of pseudo-execute.
Whoa, okay. A pseudo-execute. Now that's interesting. So even if her upfront damage isn't top tier, she can finish things off.
Potentially, yeah. That's the idea. And this chaos weapon thing is key. Oh, and she also gets an ATK bonus based on her alignment index stat.
Alignment index. Remind me what that is exactly in Snowbreak.
Sure. It's one of the main stats, often tied to specific damage types or how a character functions. For Nerida, it just directly boosts her attack power, so it's a really important stat to build on her.
Got it. Makes sense. So stacking alignment index and using a chaos weapon are pretty crucial, and this ties into her ultimate skill too.
Exactly. Her ultimate is Truth Seer. When she uses it, she deploys this thing, like a temporary field effect. Looks kind of like a jellyfish.
Okay, a jellyfish field.
Yeah. And this field massively increases how quickly Wraith Haunt stacks up and how many stacks you can get. But here's the really key part. While Truth Seer is active, any other operative on your team dealing Chaos skill damage adds 25% of their damage as more Wraith Haunt.
Wow. Okay. So it encourages team synergy, specifically with Chaos skills.
Hugely. Then, after 5 seconds, the Truth Seer field expires, does its own burst of Chaos damage, and, maybe more importantly, all that Wraith Haunt damage you stacked up, it detonates all at once.
A big delayed boom. Okay. I can see why people are excited about the mechanics. It sounds unique.
Definitely unique.
But the analysis is saying that the payoff is delayed.
Yeah, exactly. It takes time to build. The playstyle is managing the ghost form, the whale charge, then swapping strategically to a chaos sub DPS during her ultimate to maximize that final detonation. Timing and team coordination seem absolutely vital.
Right. And that leads to what the analysis calls a critical point, doesn't it?
It does. It says her endgame effectiveness really hinges on having a competent chaos sub DPS. Like, really depends on it.
It hinges on it.
Yeah, the article says it's the first time they've seen such a strong dependency for a DPS character in this game. Usually damage dealers are more self-sufficient, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So this reliance makes her feel maybe less powerful on her own, and that's a key thing for you, the listener, to think about. Her potential is kind of locked behind having the right partner.
That is a huge point. So it's not just, should I pull Nerida? It's, do I have the rest of the team to make her work?
Precisely.
And the analysis singles out Mary and Riptide as the best partner, right?
Yeah.
Why them specifically?
Yeah, Riptide is flagged as this, like, premier partner. The synergy is really strong for a few reasons.
Okay.
First, every time Nerida spawns a phantom, the game counts it as a skill cast. This charges up Riptide's special bullets super fast.
Oh, interesting interaction.
Yeah, so Riptide can use her big hits way more often. Second, Riptide's own skill damage is Chaos type, so when Nerida's ultimate is up, Riptide is directly adding to those Wraith Haunt stacks.
Okay, feeding into that big final burst.
Exactly. And third, Riptide has a passive that buffs standard skill damage, which, as we said, is a big part of Nerida's damage through those wailing ribbons.
Right.
The analysis even jokes that Riptide might as well be Nerida's second standard skill because they work so well together.
Wow. That's incredibly tight synergy. So if you're thinking about Nerida, having Riptide built already is almost a prerequisite, it sounds like.
It sounds like a major factor, yeah.
What about her weapon? And her logistics set? Are those essential too?
Well, her premium weapon, Shadow Surge, gives good stats and a buff. Kind of ironically, it increases her damage taken, which makes her tankier. A bit weird, but okay.
Oh.
The free option, though, Web Snare, has a big catch. Its attack buff only activates after her ultimate ends.
Oh, bad timing.
Yeah, it means your initial rotation, when you want to build up damage for the ultimate burst, is significantly weaker. It creates a pretty big performance gap compared to her signature weapon.
So the signature weapon seems pretty important for smooth rotations and the logistics.
Her signature set is called Side Squad. It mainly boosts the damage of her Wailing Ribbons.
The standard skill burst we talked about.
Right. And since that's a key part of her damage, especially with the ultimate amplifying Wraith Haunt, that set is highly recommended to maximize her potential.
And stat-wise, what should people focus on?
The analysis emphasizes attack and alignment index. Those are the big ones. Things like crit rate, crit damage. Less relevant because so much damage comes from skills in Wraith Haunt, not really from her shooting directly.
Okay, ATK and alignment index. Good to know. So, putting it all together, the gear seems pretty important too. Now, the big question, should you pull? Community's hyped, but this analysis sounds way more cautious.
It's definitely nuanced, yeah. The expert acknowledges she could be good against bosses with those, like, hard HP gates because of the pseudo-execute.
Right.
And she might do well in longer sustained fights. And it's a big if you already have Mary and Riptide built and ready.
Okay, the Riptide caveat again.
Always the Riptide caveat. But the analysis points out major downsides too. That heavily backloaded damage, the delayed burst, could actually hurt her in competitive endgame stuff where speed matters most. Front-loaded damage is often king there.
That makes sense. Time trials and things like that.
Exactly. And also the core gameplay loop. Deploying phantoms, waiting for projectiles. Some players might just find it, well, less engaging. Maybe even slow or boring.
Boring is pretty strong, especially for a hyped character.
It is. The analysis even goes so far as to say she feels designed for the wrong game in some ways.
Ouch.
They argue that often a more conventional DPS, one with more immediate damage, might perform just as well, or even better, without needing such a specific team and complex setup.
So simpler might be better in many cases.
Possibly. And the fact that she really only works well with other chaos skill damage dealers really limits your team building options. That's a big drawback for players who like flexibility or don't have those specific units built.
Yeah, flexibility is important.
So the expert's conclusion kind of leans towards probably not for most players unless you really love her unique mechanics and, again, already have Riptide ready to go.
Wow, okay. That's a stark contrast to those must-have video title.
It really is.
But, like you said, this analysis is just one perspective, even if it's a detailed. What about the community stuff beyond the initial hype? Are there counterpoints, other ways people are looking at her?
Oh, absolutely. While the expert analysis is critical and focused on mechanics and limitations, those community discussions show a wider range of views.
Like what?
Well, some videos specifically ask if she's good for new players or how comfortable she is to play.
So focusing on ease of use, maybe, not just peak performance.
Exactly. Suggesting that things beyond pure damage numbers matter to a lot of players. Playstyle feel, maybe less micromanagement, those kinds of things.
And we saw that one title mentioning AFK gameplay in some modes.
Yeah. That definitely hints at some level of ease or maybe a less demanding style in certain situations. That could be part of her appeal for some, you know? Set up the phantoms and let them work.
Maybe in something like the maze mode mentioned.
Could be. And while the expert analysis really hammers the Riptide point, you can bet the community theory crafters are already trying out other teams.
Right. People always find creative solutions.
They might find other ways to make her work, maybe focusing on different aspects of her kit. There will definitely be players who just like her unique style and will put in the effort to optimize her, regardless of the meta concerns.
And those initial positive videos might just be showcasing the fun parts, the flashy ultimate, without getting bogged down in the endgame viability debates yet.
Exactly. Early impressions, exciting gameplay. It captures the potential even if the long-term picture is more complex.
Okay, so it really does boil down to that classic situation. Initial excitement meets deeper analysis. The community is buzzing about this potentially top-tier DPS with cool ghost mechanics.
Yeah, but the closer look reveals she's really dependent on specific teammates, especially Riptide.
And her playstyle, with the delayed damage and swapping, might not be for everyone.
Precisely. So for you, the listener, deciding on Nerida really comes down to your preferences. Do you like that kind of playstyle? Do you have Riptide, or are you willing to build her?
And what content do you actually focus on in Snowbreak? Her strengths might fit some modes better than others.
Absolutely. So the best advice is probably to take all this in. Don't just ride the hype train.
Right. Look at more community stuff, watch different gameplay videos, but keep that critical analysis in mind too. Weigh the pros and cons for your account.
Definitely. And, you know, this whole deep dive into Nerida, it kind of raises a bigger question about Snowbreak's direction, doesn't it?
How so?
Well, introducing a character whose power is so tied to one specific sub-DPS, does that signal a deliberate shift?
Yeah.
Are they moving towards more complex, synergistic team building as the main meta?
That's a really interesting thought. A move away from self-sufficient carries.
Could be. It's definitely something to keep an eye on as the game keeps evolving. A potential change in philosophy.
Absolutely. Something for all of us to watch.